want to get started on time, so we're going to find a seat. That'll be great. On behalf of TNAPT, I'm Brian Fraser, incoming president. I want to welcome you to our annual meeting in collaboration with a wonderful institution called Belmont. And we are so excited that you are here. We've got great numbers. You're in for a real treat this morning. We've got some exceptional panelists, and I can't wait for a rich time of growth and stretching our imaginations and our theological minds this morning as we think about soul care from an interfaith perspective, and trying to find ways to be more human and affect positive change in this world. We are so glad that you are here. We've got a couple of announcements that we'll be making. I know in a minute. Where is Dr. Hicks? Okay, I'm going to get you. Come on up here. I'm going to have Dr. Hicks say a couple of words here in just a minute. Dr. McDonald has also got a little announcement that he will make after Dr. Hicks, and then I'll get back up and briefly say a couple of things and get David Thornton up here. But let me turn things over for a moment to Janet Hicks. Janet, thanks again for your hospitality. She's really the reason mainly that we're here today. And what's your
Thank you for that, but I really want to give kudos to Kaylin and Caitlin out here in the resume. They are the reason everything happens. They do so much work to put these together. I don't get the fun announcements, unfortunately. I just have a couple of things that I just wanted to remind you guys of. First, many of you are here because you want CDs, and so you want to know, how do I get those? So as soon as the sessions are over today, you'll go right back out where you registered with Kaylin and Caitlin. They do have your CE certificates. A few of you, if you somehow we need to go on the registration list, they'll want to make sure they have your name and email so they can get you that certificate. So that's one piece of business. The second thing I needed to ask of you is just a favor. Sometimes when we get programs like this approved, we have to follow certain rules and guidelines of the university. And one of the things that we promised this morning is that no one would record anything this morning. So if you would just adhere to that, please, and we won't do any recording. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm going to turn it back over to Ryan for the other announcements.
Thanks again. Appreciate your hospitality. I thought it would be good just to take just a second. I know we've got several visitors, people that are not part of TNAPT yet. You can repent of that and join TNAPT. This is a great organization, a wonderful community of caregivers. We have a lot in common, though we come from diverse backgrounds, theologically, religiously, racially, and ethnically, and otherwise. But it's a great organization. If you would like to find out more information about TNAPT on our website, this is TNAPT.com, TNAPT.com. Especially if you're a student working on a degree, maybe a master's degree in clinical mental health or clinical pastoral therapy, check it out. We'd love to have, we love our students. We have scholarships for students to attend these sorts of events. And we welcome you, and we would love for you to check it out and see if we can be a resource and an encouragement, and maybe provide some free supervision for you along the way. So that'd be great. Also, something like this could not happen without a lot of people working in the background. And the leadership team, past and incoming, have done so much. I would just like to ask our leadership team from the last 2 years, and those that are incoming in the leadership team, just to stand up from TNAPT so we can recognize you. We appreciate the great work that's been done by these men and women it's going to be $0 too. But we greatly appreciate you. I would like to turn things over just for a second to Dr. McDonald. He has some freebies to give. And I'm all about freebies. Come on.
About 15 years ago, I did two recordings. One recording.
Hold your microphone up.
One of the recordings was here in Nashville. The other was in Memphis. There are children's CDs. I've done music mainly with children because those can't stand it. Most parents that have children, and the children, they report to me in this way. They say, my child loves that, sings those songs on your CD all the time. Or they say, my child plays the song from your CD all the time. So pictures and some risk. I thought they were going to make me rich and famous, but they never did. So we were cleaning out our garage the other day, and Susan made this demand that I get rid of those things. You might like it. I'm giving them away. I've got some over here. There's some as you're walking out. If you want to, just grab each of them. One is called How Do You Do? Stories and Songs from Very Young, Not Yet Grown Up. Songs and stories from Ron McDonald. They're yours to take.
Let's have a prayer as you stand up with me. Let's just pray and ask for God's presence, and I'll turn things over to Dr. Thornton. Let's pray together. Almighty God, God of Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael, Jacob, we're thankful for this day. We're thankful for the occasion that brings us to this place. Though we come from different places in life and different maybe interests and backgrounds and experiences, we know that you love us and you love everybody that you have created. I pray that as a result of today's panel discussion, we will leave this place more better equipped to serve and to help and bring comfort and wholeness in the lives of those that are put in our path, those that come our way. I'm so thankful for our panelists, for their courage to sit on this panel today. I pray that you give them words of life for us, give them wisdom. Thankful for Dr. David Thornton and his great work in reaching out across religious, cultural boundaries for making this possible. I pray that you be with him as moderator this day. We pray this all in your name. Amen. You may be seated. Dr. David Thornton is a psychotherapist here in town and the vice president now of TNAPT. Really appreciate our friendship and his heart to people. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome my guests, and if you would come on up so that as I speak words about you, the words can fall on your beautiful faces. Gently fall. Luke 22:15. I have earnestly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. In Latin, that's desiderio, desiderum. In Greek, it's epithumia, epithumesa. I have so eagerly desired for this time. Thank you so much for coming to make this possible. And I so eagerly waited to do this with all of you, for all of you, so that our boundaries can expand and TNAPT and the practice of pastoral psychotherapy can become more inclusive, more colorful, more meaningful. My highest desire is to honor the three of you, welcoming you into our gathering, praying that this will be an edifying we seek that this be a sacred time, a sacred gathering, a life-enlarging experience. And to flesh that out a little, I'm drawing on Sister Mary Rachel Capets' doctoral dissertation, where she talks about pilgrimage. This is for all of us. Where we leave the familiar, we experience a liminal phase, and we return home with a different perspective. May that be the outcome of today. With this as a sacred time and space, I'll simply open and close us with the ringing of a bell. Sister Mary Rachel Capets, Order of Preachers, is a Dominican sister of St. Cecilia, Nashville, Tennessee. Sister grew up outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and entered religious life in 1996. She has taught in grade schools and high schools throughout the U.S. and in Australia. Sister earned her PhD in education while serving in Australia. Her interest and topic of study is pilgrimage as a means of formation for the Catholic educator. For the last 6 years, Sister has served her community as the local prioress of St. Cecilia Mother House, where she has also had the joy of serving the community of all ages, and she is now Director of Novices. Sister is also the Director of the Pilgrimage Program at Aquinas College in Nashville. Would you please welcome Sister Mary? Imam Ossama Bahloul, PhD, the resident scholar of the Islamic Center of Nashville, comes to Nashville with a wealth of experience and knowledge. Imam Ossama is a graduate of the renowned Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt, where he earned his BA in Islamic Studies, as well as his master's degree and ultimately his PhD. Dr. Bahloul completed his PhD in comparative religions. His thesis, titled Critique of Christian Issues within Will Durant's The Story of Civilization, is widely acclaimed. Dr. Bahloul's passion in comparative religions has fueled over 20 years of experience in interfaith dialogue and numerous public corroborations with both Muslim organizations and religious leaders from other faiths. As an academic, he's worked on peer-reviewed research and has traveled extensively, lecturing about critical interfaith issues facing Muslims. As an imam, Dr. Ossama has gained knowledge, experience, and insight in guiding community members to achieve their Islamic educational and spiritual goals. Prior to his tenure at the Islamic Center of Nashville, Dr. Bahloul was the Imam at the Islamic Center of Murfreesboro, where he led and supported the community through severe Islamophobic attacks, while building the only mosque in Murfreesboro. Above all, he says, and I believe him, Dr. Bahloul is a devoted and loving husband to his wife. To his wife, Ivy Bahloul, who can hear us now, and a caring, compassionate father to his 3 beautiful children. Would you please welcome Imam Ossama? Before I turn to Rabbi Phillip, I want to insert some words from Imam Ossama. In a previous interfaith panel, he said, disagreement becomes part of growth, not a point of division. In the Quran, God has given human dignity without discrimination. Each one of us has a gift, has dignity. Can we create? Can we create a society where people enjoy disagreement without harming each other? Can we appreciate the concept of diversity as an asset and not a burden in society? Can we recognize that people of different ideas and full disagreement can be the way for creating a truly advanced society? Thank you, Dr. Bahloul. Inspiring us all to use our religious imaginations, Rabbi Phillip loves to teach through story, is passionate about innovative religious services, and revels in teaching how ancient texts can still speak to us today. A community leader of interfaith dialogue, he lectures locally at Belmont University and was a founder of Get Connected, the locally run Israel teen trip experience. Born in Washington, D.C. and raised in Miami, Florida, Dr. Rice is a graduate of the University of Virginia with a major in history, holds a master's in Western religious thought and spirituality from Florida State University, and received his Master of Hebrew Letters from Hebrew Union College, the Jewish Institute of Religion. Phillip was ordained a rabbi in 2001 and earned a Doctor of Ministry from Lipscomb University. Prior to arriving in Nashville, he was Associate Rabbi at Temple the Hirsch Sinai in Seattle, Washington. He serves Congregation Micah in Brentwood along with his lovely wife, Rabbi Lauren Rice, who was covering for him this morning. Welcome. Flip in your doctoral paper, which I pulled off the shelves at the time. You include a quotation from Elie Wiesel. People become the stories they hear and the stories they tell. May this event be a story that you tell for years afterwards. May we all be changed by it. So among the Benedictines, there are three values: obedience, stability, and conversatio mora, conversion way. It means I'm listening, I'm staying, and I'm committed to change. Changing my ways. And I'll add, changing my ways through conversation. So let's all approach this conversation with the intention to change. So our hope is to engage with discussion in and around the complexities of the care of souls around a range of faith traditions. We'll explore the degree to which we concur that our various faiths are expressions of common human longing for the holy, and that a vast river of spirituality flows beneath the ground of our different understandings and practices. I'd like to open our time together with your thoughts about that. How and to what degree do we concur that our various faiths are expressions of common human longing for the holy, and that a vast river of spirituality flows beneath the ground of our different understandings and practices? Please share your thoughts.
Thanks. Maybe we should, as we're going to say at the outset, and I can't speak for either of them, but we're all very honored to have been asked to be a part of this. You are blessed to have Laura and David be part of this organization. They care so very deeply about it and about people, and so do the people on the other side of me, I have come to learn. Sister Mary Rachel here and I are just becoming friends, and recently, but Imam Ossama and I have known each other for 15 years. We discuss. We do not agree about a lot of things. We agree that we're going to be friends. And that friendship has been tried, but it continues. And we think it's, I think, important for the community to see that, and just for our own souls. I would say at the outset also that Judaism recognizes that there's something inside every human being that is unique to them. We call it a neshama, a nefesh, a soul. And people love to know about the afterlife. We believe that part of that person lives on. We have no proof for this. But sometimes we sense someone's presence more than others. And our tradition would just say to embrace that your relationship with that person, in fact, continues. It's a different kind of relationship. You can still talk to that person. They're not going to talk back in the same way. One of the things that Judaism does is try to elevate every experience that we have. We believe that you can eat in a holy way, that you can engage in relationships even of a sexual nature in a holy way. Everything that we do can be elevated and made sacred. So this for us is a sacred conversation. And again, I'm honored to be a part of it. And it's because I believe that inside me there's something special, and it's yearning to connect with other people and the neshama of the soul that's inside them. I'll say that to start.
Thank you so much. I do want to, as an opening, echo what Rabbi Phillip has said, and it is a great honor to be with you all. It's a great honor because your ministry. And I think that my hope today is that it would be a refreshing day for you, that you would feel encouraged, that you would feel known and loved and seen by a loving God, that we could somehow be an instrument of that love for you, just to encourage you, and whether you call it ministry or not, in the work you do day in and day out, that is can be very heavy and very trying. I do agree with the quote that there's that phrase that we kind of toss to the side sometimes, but that we stand on the shoulders of giants, and that's very true in each of our traditions. We're standing upon the wisdom, tried and true wisdom of others. We could live life making our own mistakes and learning from those, but it's kind of a dangerous way to live. So it's better to learn from the mistakes of others, right? And as they pass the wisdom on to us. So it is a great honor to be with you, and I hope we can continue to open up what are those well springs that are within each tradition.
Well, I don't think it's only an honor, but I think it's an essential engagement, because the religious community has to be in touch with professionals like you, and I think we learn a lot, and we benefit from your expertise, and I might claim that you will equally benefit from raising a challenge from our side, because we become part of the very diverse community. Diversity is beautiful, but open doors for many challenges. And we have to overcome not only the cultural gap, but the language and the background and the religious and all of this. Coming from the Islamic tradition, one of the major objectives of Islam as a religion is to achieve what we refer to as a tuma'nina. Tuma'nina can be translated to tranquility. Reaching tranquility and peace within oneself is one of the major objectives when we ask people to pray 5 times a day. We ask them to achieve that. And we do Islam as a religion recognize our entire activity every day as an act of worship, so it's not limited really to certain act of worship within a facility. And easing the pain for someone being identified as a reason for achieving forgiveness. When Prophet Muhammad said, إن من الذنوب ذنوبا لا يكفرها صوم ولا صلاة يكفرها قضاء حوائج الناس. There is a kind of sin cannot be forgiven by praying or fasting, and the only way for you to achieve forgiveness is to ease the pain for someone. And I am grateful for David and for his warm approach toward this challenge, and I pray for a beneficial discussion, and I'm looking forward to learning many things from my time here. And yes, Phillip, Lori, and I, we've been together for some time. We traveled together, and we are comfortable to disagree. And I feel like it's a healthy position to have. When people can reach a comfort level to raise issues, what I can refer to as attacking ideas, not attacking each other. And the difference between attacking ideas and not attacking each other is quite significant. So you disagree completely with someone, and you wish him well, and you pray for him and his family and all of this. And I'm quite comfortable with that. Thank you for the invitation.
So, the next question that I have, I'm asking if you would share with us the unique circumstances that individuals and groups in the mosque, the synagogue, the convent, or cathedral face, and particularly, Sister Mary Rachel, you're well positioned to answer a question that has plagued me for a long time. How do you solve a problem like Maria?
So the problems, I think, wouldn't surprise you. I think I'll take the question from the vantage point you heard from the bio of my involvement in Catholic education and the formation of the Catholic educator. And so we're very heavily involved in teaching here in the United States and in Australia and in Europe. And the problems that we encounter are the same exact problems you encounter. The problems of broken humanity and broken hearts. Within Christianity, we see that, and within Catholicism, that's not the end of the story. Again, my whole way that I live is from the viewpoint of the pilgrimage, right? So that's based upon what Christians believe that Jesus Christ, second person, blessed Trinity, right, always existed, and at a point in time came and walked among us, right? So Christianity is viewing God as with us, God with us, Emmanuel. So the end of the story is not the path of broken hearts. The story, as we know, is to end in eternal happiness. But Jesus has come among us to lead us to that eternal happiness. So to take upon us the brokenness. And when we look at the crucifix, Jesus broken on the cross, we see how much he is with us. Right? He emptied himself to take the form of a man so that we could be like him and then eventually be restored to the Father. So when we are walking alongside our young people, our little children who come to school scared, our teenagers who are rebelling, our college students who are addicted, you know it, you know the story. Our story is no different from the people that you are encountering. I'm walking alongside them as their sister. That's why we go by the name sister. I'm their sister, and to walk with them, to accompany them, to stay with them in the darkness. So that we can bring them light, the light of Christ. So the problems that we encounter, and then we are a community of sisters, religious sisters. So what that means is I like to think of our life like the ocean tide. So we have a combination of prayer and teaching. So every day we go to the classroom and hopefully bringing all of what we've learned in the chapel, all of what we learned in our life of prayer and study. And like the ocean wave, we take that to our children, to our students. And whatever the problems that they're carrying, we bring back to the Lord. And that's the rhythm of our day, is meeting the Lord in prayer. It's to contemplate and give to others the fruit of our contemplation. And then taking that to the young people. And bringing the problems of the world back to the God who can handle them. Because we can't handle them. So the unique circumstances, those are the unique, might not be so unique circumstances we find ourselves in. On a practical level, because we live in a community, we have a beautiful support system where when we go to school and then we come back, just by living in a healthy, as you would do in your marriages, we can bounce things off of each other, we can comfort each other, we can talk about things, we can process things, we can get aggravated, we can do all those things, and that's the support, the human support that is needed to go back out. So we've got the spiritual support and human support. So it's a little picture in our life.
Should I go?
Yeah.
I actually have no idea. Well, they can help us afterwards. The Muslim community is very unique in its challenge because we are dealing with a very diverse community. Diverse in, well, I'm sure the Rabbi will deal with, one might say, similar congregation. People are speaking the same language, often, I assume, from the same city and grow up with the same culture. The Muslim community is different. When I went to school and I thought I learned a lot and I can be a good leader for a community, I wasn't trained for this, to be very honest. And the challenge we have is the diversity within the same family, not to mention within the community. So you can have the first generation, traditional, coming from Pakistan or India, Middle East or Africa. They have their own culture and their own language and their own way of life, and their own kids, the second generation are American kids being born in America, grow up in America. So you have this diversity within the same family. When looking to the Muslim community, one time we count how many nationalities we have, and we reached 65. Most of the people, 65 nationalities within the Islamic Center. So the Chancellor of Vanderbilt came the other day, and I thought, do we have anyone from Germany? And actually we have one from Germany. And the star player in Nashville is a Muslim, and he was born in Germany. So this is a point of pride for us to always say we are very rich culturally, but open unique challenge. Because you have people when speaking about mental health and all of this is something they don't want to discuss at all. And they feel like they might have some discussion with the Imam, and it's confidential and all of this. And you can have a second and the third generations open to speak with any therapist. Something you recognize as a really mental health crisis, according to some, is something very normal. You have to toughen it up and go through it. And the others within the same community can be very sensitive to it. So we have this, I think the Muslim community in the West in particular have this rich culture, very diverse, but they have unique challenges. We receive refugees, like when a large number from Afghanistan came the year before last. And they had a unique challenge. Everyone elsewhere they've been informed that America is very good, you will be very rich from the first day, and they have no idea about the tax and the fight between the Republican and Democrat and all of that. And those people thought their country is horrible, and suddenly they did not realize how much they love their country until they come to America. And after they spend 1 week in America, and someone welcomes them to the airport and all of that, they start to face in reality. They can't speak English. Many of them really cannot work at all, and they have to deal with the challenge of the country and all of this. So this is to give you a few examples. When speaking about challenges, I feel like the Muslim community, and I'm trying to be as frank as I can here, because it's good for everyone, because I think we can do good together. Can everyone within the Muslim community, if they are traditional individual, trust someone outside of the Islamic community? I think it is a room of dawah. They have concern about, are they going to report to us if I spank my son, for example, and this is abuse in the country or not? And all of this discussion took place, and it took a significant effort, really, to encourage people to go, you can't trust a terrorist. You know what, they've been trained to do this and that. And, I think our diversity is a big part of our asset, something I really appreciate a lot. And now excitement every day, you deal with a new challenge every day, and this is keep the work within the Muslim community unique. You cannot get bored at all. But one can be overwhelmed. How can we help them? I took a training because I felt like I have to deal with all of this. I mean, to be a bridge between individuals and seeking professional help, I have to have certain background. So I really took a course in therapy, and how to deal with that. So the short answer, I think the Muslim community, its diversity is an asset and a challenge, and us underestimating how much pain and agony they go through. We have people came to America as a result of them becoming refugee because they are coming from a war zone, and you have a family half in the Far East and half in America, and we have this all of the time. And I thought I can make a good introduction for you, Phillip, so your talk will be good now.
I think that is not that they're inaccurate, they're incomplete. Right, so if you ever Google the danger of a single story, watch it. A woman comes from Africa, she goes to Harvard, people are surprised she wears shoes. Because we have a picture of what Africa's like. So I imagine you all have a picture of what Jews are like. And I should say that I am what's called a progressive reform rabbi. And what that means is, and in my mind there are movements in Judaism. There are lots of different movements, but there are two kinds of Jewish people. There are Jewish people who believe God wrote the Bible. Wait for it. And there's the rest of us. The rest of us see the Bible as divinely inspired, and it gives a vote but not a veto on how we live our lives. And I say that because Congregation Micah, which is about 6 or 7 miles down the road, is a very inclusive, it's in our mission statement place. And we try to be very innovative and we welcome everybody. We've got the gay pride flag flying out front. I do not speak for the whole Jewish world. I don't even speak for the progressive Jewish world. But when I answer questions you should know, I can give you an authoritative Jewish answer, and I can give you our interpretation of what things are really like. And I say that because stereotypes tend to make Jews like, I don't know, Seinfeld maybe, or Woody Allen, or whatever pictures you may have in our head, that we're kind of nervous and anxious. And one of the large reasons we're that way is because the Holocaust was real. And they put us in ovens. And because the attacks you see and the stuff in Israel is real. And it's far away, but it is happening, and it's happening right now. And all of us feel that pain. And for the Jewish people, we have this unique superpower. We can fit in. Because if I take this hat off and I sit over there, you don't know I'm Jewish. So some of our community feels that minority status and they express it in different ways. We have inherited this angst. We're not supposed to be afraid of the world, but we are. Because the world is chaotic. But just like in the beginning, right? God created the world, and God brought order to chaos and light to darkness. And so that is largely how we see our mission in the world. And the difficulty lately, and this existed before there was conflict in Israel, is that because of that minority status, Jews who live in Nashville, Tennessee feel it because you all are so into your Christianity. And you're praying on stuff, and you're going to prayer breakfast, and you're asking us what church we go to. We go to the Jewish church over on Old Hickory. It freaks us out. And there's an anxiety that comes with it. So this is the heavy part. The heavy part is, maybe you're a parent. I'm a parent. My kids have grown up for the most part. I used to drop them off at preschool. That was kind of scary, right? That was before they were shooting children. Covenant is about 4 miles from where our preschool is. Those parents, they want a bunker. Why do they want a bunker? Because there's Nazis marching down the street from here saying, we want to get you. And given our history, when people say they want to get us, we take them seriously now. So that amount of angst is floating in the air when everyone has their own broken personal problems. And the Jews, they deal with it differently. Some gotta wear that Jewish star out on their chest, and some just want to sit there at the soccer team and pray in Jesus' name because they don't want to feel different. But it has a big impact on the psyche of our people here. And maybe I'll stop with that. It's just a unique circumstance that we seem to face at this time. Let me say this. One of the reasons we're friends is because our community heard what was happening down in Murfreesboro when he started the mosque and said, you call him and you see if he needs help. So there are plenty of people out there. I wasn't me. I did it. But there was a community that says, they feel the minority status too.
The minority status within the Muslim community is more obvious. Because we can agree that the Jewish community has been established in the country. And the massive majority of the Jewish community speak English as a first language. was in a second generation. Let me mention to you, we were in Murfreesboro, and I remember a 7 years old boy, born in Middle Tennessee. We went through all of this struggle, and we didn't realize that the children have their own crisis within the struggle. So a 7 years old came to me one time and he said, "Why do they hate us?" And how can you respond to someone 7 years old? The only thing I thought of, I had a very good relationship with Brian. Brian was a pastor, was in the United Methodist. And I said, "Brian, why don't you come over and let us have coffee? I have this boy, I want you to speak with him." And I said to him, "Brian is a pastor in the United Methodist Church. He's my friend and he wants to speak with you." And I thought through the discussions, the boy would realize that someone else besides the Imam and someone Christians, American, looking like loves him and care for him. One of the unique trouble and the challenge we face as a community, while the Jewish community dealt with the Holocaust, we have people from the Middle East within the Muslim community through this crisis. I have a member in the Islamic Center who lost 165 members of his family in Gaza. And you can be the best therapist around. What can you say to him? So the Muslim community, part of the family being here and part of the family being somewhere else, allow room for a unique challenge. And not to mention that the Muslim community by default might come across as conservative in terms of family and all of this, and they deal with a different struggle. So many of them see themselves in, the Republican Party, when they speak politics, don't like us. And the Democratic Party wants to push us toward things we don't believe in. So we are stuck. And this is allowed for a unique challenge, what to do. And the issue of identity is a challenge. It's very easy for anyone to say, and I am this and that. I mean you. But sometimes when it comes to communities like the Muslim community, very good community in many ways. I don't want to kind of be negative about the Muslim community, but this struggle with identity. Some of them do. Are we 100% American or not? Do they treat us as part of the team, or are we them? And this is the challenge. You can sense it. And open room for crisis sometimes. Well, I want to take the time, I guess the coming questions might answer, give us an opportunity to elaborate in the rest.
Thank you very much, all three of you. What we just did is what I'd like to continue doing, that this is a conversation, not issuing of prefab statements. You're really engaging with each other and with the room around us.
You gave us questions, I wrote on the answer.
Well, there we are. I want to ask all of you to be thinking about the questions that you would like to raise, to pose, for us to consider together. We'll do that after the break, but do be open to your own thoughts. The next place I'd like to turn, or at least that I plan to turn, but I think, Ossama, because of something you touched on, I'll go with this question. And before that, Rabbi, I want to thank you for saying, I am here because I'm Jewish, but I don't represent all Jews. So it's important to recognize that as a Catholic, a Jew, and a Muslim, we are a face of our communities, but we are not the face of our communities. I love that. True but incomplete. There is a poll that suggests that 1 in 4 families experiences some level of estrangement. Siblings who don't talk, children deliberately out of touch with their parents, multi-generations that are having trouble. How does this affect your work with the
take sides. And I will tell you that I am not a therapist. I am happy to be with people and do a little reflection and sort of spiritual direction, and we can talk about God, but if you come see me a second or third time, I'm referring them to you. I just have not been trained to have all of those skills. So when I say we step in it, it's because it could be a funeral. And I'm meeting with family, and there's a dynamic there that I'm picking up on that I'm not 100% sure what that dynamic is. And it's hard. And we want to be an advocate for everybody. But what I have actually found is that more often than not, when people come to seek spiritual guidance from me, they're actually manipulating me. That they're in fact trying to get me to buy into their side of the narrative and or to validate behaviors that I don't feel comfortable validating. The few times that I have really tried to show a mirror to some immoral or inappropriate behavior, they don't come around as much. I think they join the other time. There's an embarrassment. I don't mean to shame them. I'm just trying to be authentic and help them on their pilgrimage with God. And so it's difficult. I don't have an answer. I want to be loyal to everyone's beliefs and their assessments of situations, because they always come at me with facts, but it's their facts. It's not always the facts. And so I do my best to navigate that and to know my limitations about when they need some other professional help. And there are wonderful people out there, out here, that do that family therapy thing that can help those dynamics when the people are really open to the growth and the healing that's required.
The way we deal with the conflict within the family is that only few things works really well. One of which is if you gain trust with the parents and as well as the children of the spouse, both of them trust you, my position, and they know that I don't judge anyone really, but I can highlight to them the religious positions. I can say, you know what, you have these options, 1, 2, 3, and they know that I am very open and I speak my mind. Everyone knows that. So if we have a good relationship, I think the trust between we build with them does help a lot if they came and asking for discussions and listen to each one of them individually, and it works sometime. If one of them is acting in the Islamic center, because the parents are or the children are and the other side is not, then it's a challenge I cannot overcome, to be very honest. Because you have to have this trust to start with. When it comes to sometimes it's an issue of marriage, when the kids want to marry outside of the Muslim community and all of this, if we have the trust, we end up really facilitating a discussion, and we end up really reaching a resolution. Something works for the Muslim community and it might benefit the Imam a lot, give us Imam power really. They trusted the Imam sometimes too much, in my opinion. And I always say to people in Islam who don't have the concept of clergy. In Islam we have scholars really answering questions. We don't have anyone between us and the God. Yeah, so you have a direct access to God. But I think if they are traditional Muslims, they coming from Middle, Far East, or Africa, the level of trust really does help with the Imam. Because if you say anything to them, many of them will take it. The younger one, they will argue and you have to make a case for your position. I do my very best to push, to encourage them to go to professional. I've been successful with younger people, but it's very hard for elder to go to you guys for many reasons. I'm happy to share it with you, not really about here the individual trust or personality, but because of reason they have in their mind. Or stereotype they have toward this specific profession. And you know what, and many of them, like the concept of chaplain, praying with you. Can a Christian pray with me and I don't really see the Christ to be the Son of God anyway? And then Sister Mary will come and say to me, Jesus is the way, and in mine he is not the way. Sometimes it takes a lot to train individuals that will what they will pray with you the way you like.
And you know what? Therapists will listen to you and give you options, and will not report to you. It will not be in your record. Some people will assume that if I have a specific diagnosis, it will be in my record no matter what, and everyone will know that. Keeping in mind some culture, this is a shame associated with this, and it's a challenge. But I think we have more success with younger people, encouraging them to go, and we did a few things. We started encouraging younger people to become therapists within the Muslim community. So we did this, we have two, and I felt like now they have the proper training, and they have the culture understanding component existing, and they are Muslim. I guess if someone says what they see here wearing a scarf, means well, she's one of us, at least in his mind or her mind. I think the long-term solution is to empower more younger people to become a therapist, and then the religious authority will be very much the bridge. 1 or 2 times, as Phillip said, I agree 100%. And they go because they did many sessions with you and all of this, and they don't have time for it anyway. You have your mic. Don't take mine.
As I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about how, as a teacher, especially when we are working with minors, there is, you're striving to attend to the child, but keeping in mind that the parent is the primary educator, and parents are their primary educators. So we're trying to help the young people to live a life of virtue and to be obedient, right? But sometimes in the course of that balance is where you are not a therapist. You're trying to figure out not really who's in the wrong, but you're hearing two sides of the story. So really, the best recourse that I have found is bringing the family in, doing what we can in terms of getting on the same page. But a lot of times when problems get ramped up, again, we have to turn it over to professional help. And I've found, same as Ossama, that young people now, even the way high schoolers support each other and are attentive to each other, they're a lot more open to receiving professional help. And also, they're the first ones to notice that their friend needs help. They're the first ones to come to us as teachers and say, I'm concerned about my friend. And so they, young people are great resources to one another. But it is such a matter of discernment, really, and honoring the parents and honoring the word of the child, and it's a balancing in some ways.
I would like to hope that all of us are learning and growing in becoming more ecumenical in our responses to whoever comes to see us. Whatever our concept of God is, we try to listen to their approach to response to the experience of God. That's a dear hope of ours, and it's very exciting to hear that you have Muslim young people who are entering into psychotherapy, and I'd like to say on behalf of all of us that we would welcome them to join us in the Tennessee Association of Pastoral Therapists. And that goes for all you Belmont students who are here as well. There are papers you can sign. Can we do something? This may be a question we already touched on a bit, but I'll ask it more directly. Where do people in your tradition, in your community, turn for help during times of stress? In your view, would you like to see better resources for your congregations? Are they being well served? Is there currently something lacking in the healthcare system? And what would you propose to correct that?
We have more grant to equip people with the ability to become professional. I see the challenge with language. People not only want to have someone practicing their own faith, they want someone to speak their own language.
Yes.
And this is a challenge because the language is part of the culture. I struggle to learn about different part of the Muslim community because they are completely different in their culture. Some people reach out to the Islamic centers. I guess, as I said, often couples are having issues with their marriage, and the younger people, if they have a good relationship with the Imam, keep in mind, not every Islamic center, Muslim community, by the way, are diverse. Meaning, when Phillip said we have Orthodox and the conservative and the Reform Jewish, it is across the board. Within any faith tradition, you will find the Reformer, and you have some people more conservative than others. So it depends on the Islamic Center. The Islamic Center is giving this issue more attention. The Islamic Center of Nashville, we give this a lot of attention, and we invite speakers to speak about it, and we have a special speaker for younger people, and we have a special speaker for elder people. We do this, and as a result, we start having some interest within the community. I think we should make people aware of the resource. I think we should encourage people to, within the same community, train them, instead of us assuming that we can do a better job. And the Muslim community should do its part of providing you with whatever you need in terms of information about the community. I think it will be a win-win for both sides if we work collectively. But I am optimistic, and it's obvious that we have crisis. We really do.
Okay. When I was thinking about this question, and Sister Ann Catherine, who's my companion here for today, so thanks for being here, Sister. You and I were looking over some of these, and we were talking firstly about stress and just how there are normal levels of stress, as you would all know better than I would. But we were talking about and thinking about how automatically it doesn't mean, if there's stress in your life, it doesn't automatically mean you need professional help. So I was thinking about the base level of stress, and as the breakdown of the family happens, the levels of stress increase. As family and community, strong, healthy communities grow, those are the places where we can alleviate stress. It's the healthy keeping of the Sabbath. It's the holy day, maintaining the holy day, that is the divine wisdom that allows us a day to just stop. And that's it, stop. Right? Be with loved ones that can rejuvenate us from the stresses of the work week and even the stresses of the school week. However, then when we get to the next part of the question about healthcare system, I think that what I've been really impressed with is when a professional, whether a therapist or a counselor, can say to someone, you're actually not in the right place. You need to be talking to your minister, or in our case, your priest or a spiritual director. Because I think within the healthcare system, we have to be sure, it's important to recognize there are psychological problems, there are spiritual problems, there are physical problems. So the holistic view, because I don't know about y'all, but times when I have walked with a young person and I don't know the line between what is spiritual right now and what is psychological, because it's so close. And then what's emotional, of course, it gets in there. That line is so fine. So I've been impressed when there's a therapist who's sent somebody back to me and said, ask sister to give you, to either direct, or I'm going to stop right now in my therapy with you, but I want you to ask sister such and such, and then we'll pick it back up. And it's been beautiful. Then it's vice versa, where I've had to say, you know what, I think this is beyond us, and we need to go into some kind of whether it's a particular therapy, whatever that is. That's been so impressive to me. So I think that if the healthcare system can acknowledge that there is not, that mental health problems are not just empirically proven problems, that there is something beyond, I think that would be a huge
wrote this answer out, forgive me if I read a little bit. Even for progressive Jews, at the center of the Jewish faith is the belief in God. And God is this word that we use to sort of describe this power that's bigger than ourselves. I experience that power all the time. I don't know if our community does, but I experience it when I see things that fascinate me because of their complexity, of their beauty. And every time I do, I'm like reminded that the universe operates independent of our control, that we are in fact not in charge, which scares a lot of people. I mean, despite our wishes, we're born, despite our wishes, we get sick, and despite our wishes, we die. And life seems to teach us this lesson, like, repeatedly. Amazing things happen to us that we did nothing to deserve. And terrible things happen that we did nothing to deserve. And so, with all the progress that we've made through science, I believe religion actually asks these bigger questions and helps us try to decipher these deeper, more ultimate questions. And so for me, religions are actually created by human beings. We're going to maybe disagree on this, right?
Obviously.
But they force us to ask the questions, why are we here? What is it that we're supposed to do with this time that we have on earth? And so the ancient rabbis who crafted the Jewish tradition attempted to address the stress. They tried to give us the strength to live in this unfathomable cosmos by giving us answers to questions like these that are beautiful and they're true. They're not true because we can prove them like you do in geometry with theorem. They're true because they say things profound and essential and sublime. So Judaism, I mentioned, teaches that all of life is sacred and can be elevated and made holy. And that we are in fact one family, the human race. That we're connected to one another and we are in fact responsible for one another. And what we're told to do by these ancient rabbis is to help heal the world. And to do this, to attack the brokenness, the best way to do it is to form sacred communities that are founded on justice and love and humility. And by doing that, we don't escape from the world, we try to make it better. And so I say all of this because our people have been teaching these ideas for thousands of years, and they have inspired us to work for good, even in the midst of evil, and they've helped us to hold on to hope, even when we lived in darkness. So, in stressful times, people use their community. That's what I've seen this year. I was worried people would be afraid, they'd be embarrassed, and they didn't want to come. Because Jews with power, we're just like everybody else. We screw it up. But I found the opposite, that our attendance has increased dramatically, that people are more willing to contribute of their time and talents and resources. And I think part of that is because even if there's no God, even if it's a sham, the storytelling we do when we come together for a religious worship experience, the music, the prayers for those who are sick, the prayers for peace we're all offering, something happens in that room with those people, and it's healing, and it's real. So I think we turn to God, and we turn to Torah, and we turn to each other. And that helps us a little bit, whether it's through prayer or community. It provides a certain kind of strength that helps us get through tough times, because, and I've had to say this lately, sometimes it's not going to be okay. But I think often we can get through those things together.
Yes, I might mention, when dealing with the Muslim community, you have to keep in mind that they are family-oriented. Most of them are. They care a lot about family. They care a lot about the family value. So this is part of the strength and the challenge at the same time. Strength because when we use family to kind of resolve a conflict, it's an asset. But if the conflict within the family and we cannot resolve in the family high, become really part of the challenge. The Muslim community they understand that God said you will be tested and you will be rewarded. And the Muslims believe that in the hereafter heaven has levels, and which level of heaven you will be in will be determined by the kind of life you led and how you manage crisis and all of this. It might benefit someone dealing with a Muslim having some struggle to realize that this individual believes in God and they believe God in control and He's a loving God. But the loving God, we are taking a test here. So the test can be hard. No one expects the test to be easy all the time. So maybe family issue and the religious belief is a component we have to keep in mind when dealing with Muslims in this within this context, because it will benefit you as someone going to help them if they are coming to you. This is their background. This is what's in their mind. Even when dealing with Muslims not practicing Islam much, I noticed really they care about the relationship with God because they took this from a very young age. God is there. Religion for us is something we did not invent. God created Adam and Eve. This is our positions, and God guided them, and the Muslims believe in all of the prophets, and religion is a very special part of their identity. I think it's a special part of any religious community. It's fair to say, but I think it can be used to say, you know what, you need to do this and to do that. But part of some of them not seeking help from you all, then you know what, it's a test. And I have to deal with it. And God will reward me for it. And I think this is it's a background you can keep in mind when dealing with someone going through crisis. Why aren't they seeking assistance and help? Because sometimes, you know what, I know it's hard, but I will have a special place in heaven. And this is something we can keep in mind when dealing with the Muslims going through crisis. I thought I can.
I just wanted to add one thing, and it's a resource so that people know that it's out there. The Jewish community has infrastructure. Like we got a day school, we got a junior high school, one high school. We have all these things here. We have something called Jewish Family Services. I don't know if you knew what that was, but we have therapists that are relatively inexpensive to access from the Jewish community, so that people need that help. There's a wonderful woman named Pam Kellner who runs that in town, and so just so you know, we don't always all take it on from the community. We use the other resources that the traditions have.
I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. I am lapping this up like a cat with a bowl of milk.
You want to hear a funny story?
I do.
So we had Imam Ossama come speak to some of our senior group, and they had a variety of questions many years ago. And he was answering very patient. And at one point, someone said something like, you know, we have Jewish Family Services, and we have a Jewish Community Center. What do you got? And you remember what he said? He said, you know, we haven't been here as long. We're still working on our infrastructure. We haven't figured out America yet, but we will. And my group went, oh, what does that mean? Okay. Where do you want to go next?
Well, I'll respond to a comment that you made, Sister Mary Rachel, that stress in our lives does not automatically mean that we need help. At a recent Interfaith panel in which you sat, there was a Buddhist participant who said that hopelessness, pain, and anger are not bad. They tell us what we care about. I also find it fascinating. It's never occurred to me to think that on a broader scale, people would not access mental health services because they are perceiving their experience as a test for which there will come a reward. In my tradition, my family origin, my culture here in the South, the resistance to accessing mental health issues has been more around shame of being seen as having a test, rather than I can weather this and come out the other side.
The issue of shame exists within communities. I think the issue of being a Christian from God is one issue. The issue of community. It really fascinating in many ways. So you can find the one who is not, I'm not going to speak about this at all, and it's shameful. You can find someone saying, "What, I'll be patient with it and I will go through it." Life is a transition anyway. Life is not our main focus here, but our main focus is the hereafter. The Quran even referred to as the true life. الحياة الآخرة is the true life. Well, this life is a transition. So if it's hard, you know what, we'll be out of it. You can have this one.
Trying to figure out the right way to say what I want to say. Has anyone ever heard the book, The Language of Emotions? Yeah, sort of they're message carriers, and we push them down, right? And so there's certain emotions we're allowed to have in public. I can tell joke and people can laugh, and it's funny flip, that's good, right? But angry flip's not fun. No one wants to be around angry. But we have these emotions. So the question, I think, is how do we learn to healthily deal with emotions? Man's search for meaning. Viktor Frankl, he says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And that is a very sacred thing. I can say, Israel had time to respond. I may not have liked their response, right? But what we want is thoughtful response. We want to process that emotion. Yes, I can be angry. I can't yell at my wife because I'm angry. That's not healthy. So, at one point, I don't know if we're going to get into, you asked about sort of the synchronism of learning from other traditions. That was one of the questions. A major Jewish approach, I imagine Islam could be similar. When you say kol bo, it's all in our tradition. You don't need to go elsewhere. That's not true. Like, I do a lot of yoga. There's nothing Jewish about it. But I for many years went to a Buddhist therapist. And I was going through something difficult, a trial. And he shared the story of the Buddhist that said, he was, I guess, in captivity for decades. And they said, "What was your greatest fear?" He said, I feared I would lose compassion for my captors. So I learned something that has nothing to do with Judaism, but a religious growth moment for me. So I do believe that there's much we can learn from other traditions that are out there.
But required really a level of maturity for people to be willing to listen to others and to engage in a different discussion. You are speaking about mature individual has the ability to realize that, each one of us has a gift, I guess, and we can benefit from one another. But also you can have living within the community. We have them within our community, the Muslim community, and I assume that we can have them across the board. It's a human issue, in my judgment. I don't want to say not mature, but into themselves. They lack the ability of interacting with other people. Okay? Through my Facebook case, I was surprised why people are attacking a community did not do anything. And I was eager to understand why are you worried about the community did not do anything. The Imam is open and wants to speak with you about anything. We have an open policy. After September the 11th, we spoke against it. So we are very comfortable, we are very open. But I came to learn that the percentage of people, there is a very huge amount of really opposition toward the Muslim community. People lack interaction with others, lack the ability to travel, lower in the education, little there, and those people lack security. They are not secure. They don't want to interact with anyone else. Because if I interact with him, I might become a Jewish. I might become Christian. I will lose my identity. So yes, you can go to other people, but I assume you have to have a very mature individual willing to go across the board and say, "What, I'm fine. I will continue to be myself, and I will gain something from other people." Within the Islamic tradition, even in the early days of Islam, Prophet Muhammad did ask for assistance from people outside of the Muslim community. He did. His guide toward the city of Medina was not a Muslim man. When people formed a committee standing for justice for all of them were not Muslim, and they said, "I want to be with them." So within the religion, there's many evidence encouraging the Muslim to reach out to everyone. But do you think all of the Muslims do that? I'm sure not all of them. Not because of the religion itself, because of the individuals. Well, I had a discussion with a Jewish group one time, and this lady was old, and she was very upset. I guess it was Muslims across the board. And I said, ma'am, she said the Holocaust. I said to her, ma'am, we did not do anything with the Holocaust. I was not part of it. Okay, I wasn't part of it. Muslims did not do anything. Maybe I don't want to attack Christians here, but you guys, on the other side, maybe you're part of it. I come prove you to the Imam of the great mosque in Paris, really, and did the research about this. Assist the Jewish, and they give them shelters and all of this. So, ma'am, don't be angry with me. And I got nothing to do with all of this, but it was in her mind that all of the others have this feeling toward me. She might be a wonderful woman, but she was lacking maturity. In my opinion, she did not interact with people outside of the Jewish community. So she lived within this bubble. You have this within the Jewish community, I experienced, and you have it within the Muslim community. And I'm sure you can go to any community, go outside of Nashville. And I went to a church in the countryside, and some people were very mad, to the point that we were talking, and the lady came to me, and I thought she wants to shake hand with me, and she put sausage in my hand. And she did. And I said, what is this? She said, sausage, you are full of hair. You even hate pigs, because Muslims do not eat pork. I said to her, man, listen, if any pigs is alive here, it's because of us. We don't eat pork. And you guys eat this animal, so if any one of us disliking this animal, you are not me, really. I have nothing to do with it. So my point is, here's a lady. It seems like one of them are ladies. What is this? No, my point is, I think she was very sweet individuals. But in her mind, I was her enemy. Really, she associated me with everything bad in her mind. And it was my first time there, and I think you can find this. So can member of the community reach out to assistants outside of their own congregation if they are mature, educated, if they have resource, if they have large number of friendship, they are not living within bubbles. This is why I said we can grow and we reach a different kind of livelihood when we start recognizing that all of us are part of the team. And when we realize that we have to stop speaking about each other, we have to start speaking with each other. The difference between about and the with is quite significant, really. Then we eliminate stereotype, and then the community can benefit from what we have, all of us together.
This is not being recorded, right? Okay. Jews tend to be pretty spiritually mature. And what I mean by what I say is not that they're all that way, it's that you all are so comfortable in your vocabulary around Christ and prayer, and that we just don't have that English vocabulary. And that environment makes us feel that unique minority status. So the racism isn't okay, but the angst is real. It was an illustration of what that's like.
Maybe I should say something that has just occurred to me. You know, Catholics are Christians. And to totally lay that out, but sometimes I realize that's another stereotype. That sometimes people don't realize that Catholics are actually Christian. So that's just one kind of a thing that's important to realize. But the man that keeps coming to my mind right now is a great philosopher and theologian, St. Thomas Aquinas, who wrote the Summa Theologica, so it's a summary of theology. He actually wrote it for, when you teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, they ask the questions that St. Thomas asks. It's phenomenal. When they're allowed to just kind of sit back and wonder, they ask the questions, then you can go to the Summa, you're thinking, oh my gosh, in the Middle Ages, that's the questions that people are asking, and that's the questions our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders who are reflective are asking. But some of the things we're talking about right now, I just wanted to point in the direction of St. Thomas. When we talk about the emotions, and we deal a lot with the emotions, our own and others, he says that the emotions are caused by love. I think that's important to realize because the attraction toward the good, or the aversion toward what is evil, not morally evil, but repulsive, something that is not, it could be morally evil. But I think that's important when we're talking about emotions because it's, the impetus is the way the reason we have them is the motor is love. The other thing as we're talking is St. Thomas was controversial for his time because he did use Muslim authors, Jewish authors, pagan authors, right? And drew from many sources because the principle was to take the truth where it's found. And I think that's what we're doing. We're celebrating that there's really one source of truth. And we are each expressing it in different ways. But just to celebrate and take the truth where it's found. I think I was comfortable the first time I met, well, I already was comfortable when I met David a few years ago. We had a great conversation. But the first time that I met these two fellows here, the very first thing that Phillip said was, when Sister Ann Catherine said, how did the two of you meet? He said, we've been friends for a while, but we disagree on a few things. I thought, okay, well, I can be comfortable there because that means I can say what I really believe, and they're going to receive me still, and then we can move from there. So I would agree with the idea of, I think that younger people, and maybe really actually, not just young people, maybe fanaticism, does come from that immaturity, that there's not the confidence in who I am and my beliefs. So then there comes a fear, and anything other than what I don't even know I'm supposed to be is a threat. So I do agree with it. The dialogue is super important, but I also agree that we need to allow, exactly what we're doing, allow for legitimate differences, but also within whatever your faith tradition is, make sure your young people know what it is, because it's a disservice to them if they don't. And then they're ready to engage. But they actually need to know what it is we're trying to pass on to them. So,
When I studied in Cambridge, I was at an evangelical Anglican college. The director of the college was named Graham Cray. Graham Cray was my Gandalf and my Dumbledore. He was an amazing man. His office was a third, a fourth of the size of this room, but high ceilings filled with books. And I swear I thought he could say, what is it? Axio Libro. All of us, Thomas King said, we are all texts of God, which Rohr would say, we are all living texts. And we all celebrate deepening ourselves in our reading. Ossama, you said that if we are only talking with people who are like us, we're effectively talking with ourselves alone. And there's a diagnosis for people who talk to themselves. That's important. It's important.
I also say, because I know you know Rabbi Rami Shapiro.
Yes.
He's the one who taught me this. He said, you can be a defender of faith if you want, and just give the strict Jewish answer all the time. Or you can elevate and be a spiritual leader that helps people get in touch with what they believe and make them feel okay with that. So I have chosen the latter, not all rabbis have.
I am amazed to hear you able to embrace. I experience God all the time. And even if God is a sham, that's a deep, wonderful thing. So you've mentioned Rami, so I'll quote him. Thank you. Yes. I heard Rami say years ago, the beauty of the Old Testament books, the Tanakh, is that they show their heroes with all their dark side and all their foibles. In the New Testament, Jesus seems to have no foibles. He seems so Christ-like. It's obvious, I mean, it's great time. But something happens when you become Israel. There's a reconciliation through compassion with the enemy, and an alignment with the side of care as the wounded healer. Jacob's thigh wound, Jesus' pierced side. The gift of Jacob's woundedness, and I would say all of our woundednesses, is it required him to walk slower, to take on his higher calling, to be of service to the least powerful, to be a wounded healer. That might be a good time for us to take a break, and I've been asked to announce that we're having lunch at 1 o'clock across the street at International Market. We're not paying for you, but you're welcome. And Anna Mayan, who runs International Market, would be so glad to see so many of our faces. The food is fantastic. It's been award-winning. Hope you'll join us and as many of our friends who can be there. Thank you for your attention. Make good use of the break, and see you in 10 minutes.
And happiness? Well, I don't know. I'm a pretty damn happy person. And it said that they told you all that
All right, we're going to call it back together. If you can make your way back into the room, back to your places. Dr. Fraser has a comment for us before we resume, so the sooner you're here, the sooner he can start. Thanks so much for being here.
All right. But before we get back to the panel, and the panel is knocking it out of the park. I mean, this is awesome. Just give them a round of applause. I want to go ahead right now and put in just a little plug. Generally, well, in TNAPT, we do this conference annually, but we also do a midwinter gathering. And the midwinter gathering is in January, and it's conducted completely online, so it's on Zoom. And that opens up opportunities for people from all over the U.S. to plug into that if they wish. One of our speakers, we're yet to get the second speaker. We'll have a male and a female presenter, but I just want to speak really briefly about what's coming. This will be on Friday, January 17th. Friday, January 17th. And it will start the evening about 6:45 to 9 o'clock. You get 2 hours of continuing ed. For 2 hours of CE, we'll have 2 presenters. One of the 2 presenters, the second one, again, is forthcoming soon. But one of them is Dr. Dwayne Bidwell. Dr. Bidwell is nationally and internationally known. He's an award-winning teacher, mentor, trainer, writer, facilitator, spiritual director. His new book, After the Worst Day Ever, What Sick Kids Know About Sustaining Hope in Chronic Illness, was published March of this year. Dwayne's research specializes in health professions education, comparative approaches to mental health and spirituality, educational leadership, and Buddhist Christian studies. So he's connected with the Taos Institute. He has, his last book that came out in 2018 was When One Religion Isn't Enough, The Lives of Spiritually Fluid People. So Dwayne comes from a Christian Buddhist background. It's going to be a great ongoing conversation, and we want to have some continuity with today. So it's going to be a wonderful ongoing conversation. It's going to be excellent. You do not want to miss that. You're looking on our website. We'll have advertisement. And again, there'll be another presenter as well that we will notify you of. So I just want to put that plug in again. Friday, January 17th, 2025, in the evening, completely online on Zoom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. There was some conversation after we started our break that our panelists want to make sure that this is very helpful to you clinicians and you in training. So as we are moving toward the question and answer time, if you have questions that would be helpful, that we're not touching, please to Graham Cray's office lined with books and that Axio Vibram and things. Because in a dinner conversation we had some months ago, Imam Ossama talked about the home he grew up in. And if we could move just for a moment to the formative influences in our lives, the picture you painted, and I won't go any further, but the picture you painted of what you grew up in, your father's library. And how texts inform. And how texts inform us.
I was born in a middle class family in Egypt to a very educated father, and my mother did not have any kind of education. However, she wasn't in charge of the entire budget of the family. And my father never did anything without her agreement. And we grew up while most of the resources of our family went towards books. So we had to build a library in the house. I mean library. And part of me becoming an imam was my father said to me, you should be, it's a very nice career and this and that, and I didn't like it, by the way. I said to him, I can be anything but this imam business. Why? Because I grew up in a house where I remember couples coming to my father and screaming and crying and all of this. I said to him, I don't want to have drama in my life. But he said you'll be helping people, serving God, and they make a living at the same time. And it's a very good position, and many people will like you for it, they will pray for you, and you will have a good position in the society. And he was able to convince me. And he taught me to read and not to have an idea about anyone without speaking with him or her or them first. Not only that, when I came to America, I wasn't married, and it was a time the war in Iraq was very aggressive, and all of this, many people in the Middle East dislike America. And I met Ivy, my wife from Texas, and I want to marry Ivy. And I remember when I spoke with my mom the first time, she screamed at me. And I was a very good kid, by the way. I was one of those kids who was in trouble of any kind in the family. Studying and all of this, but my mom said you cannot marry from America. The Americans dislike us. They are killing us because of the war in Iraq and all of this. Anyway, my father was able to say, "No, go for it." But after we got married, after 2 months, we thought about visiting Egypt, and I thought I am safe. Ivy cannot speak any Arabic, and my mom cannot speak any English. So we are good. We went, and after a few days in the house, and this is exactly what happened. My mother said, I owe your wife an apology. I said to her, why? She said, American are really nice people. I said, Mom, Americans are not nice people. Americans are not bad people. Americans are people. Many of them are good and many of them struggle, I guess, like anyone else. But without being able to speak at all, they were able to communicate. And I have to simply, my mom until today always say my favorite daughter-in-law is Ossama's wife. And they knew that, by the way. I think it was the interaction, the ability to see each other in the same level. As you know what, we are all human, all of us have a desire to love and to care for, and for someone to love us and to care for us. And I really appreciate the kind my father said to me, you can have any position, but just make a case for it. He was open about having any discussion about anything. We grew up being very comfortable. By the way, this is traditional farmers Egyptian. It is not like this. Because you're supposed to listen to your father all the time and you don't question your father. He was open and I'm grateful for it. And we used to have long discussions about things, and he was okay with me having disagreement with him. And he encouraged me to study Judaism and Christianity, and I did. And he was an imam, and they said you should be comfortable with your faith. If only thing keeping you Muslim is not interacting with anyone else, that's really sad. And he taught me many things, and I learned from the beginning that I cannot grow without interacting with different people, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, and I reach a level of comfort. I'm very relaxed, speak in my mind. Some people like me for it, some people do not, and I don't really mind. I try to make other people comfortable. Yesterday, I was speaking with a student from Vanderbilt. Two of them were Jewish. And I can tell from their face that you respect. Yesterday, not comfortable with this Imam. What will he say about us? We have Gaza conflict and many people being killed. So I said, you know what, the Rabbi this, and this is my friend, and this Rabbi is, and you know we can disagree, and they relax. Because they realize that we can have a discussion. And this is the kind of background I had. Was not perfect, and I'm not claiming to be perfect at all, but I think it did help. It did help me to realize people around us are not necessarily enemy. Even people opposing us, maybe they be misinformed. Maybe they see us as trying to destroy the country. This is how I deal with the country folks in Tennessee trying to stop us. I did not see them to be enemy. I saw them that people misinformed. And if you can meet them in the human level and they start speaking about things we share together and said that, they end up, most of them, if they are willing, most of them end up to be fine. But maybe in context, in all of this in context, what we have today, maybe someone in your career should re-examine the language. The difference between you using the term abuse when identifying to a certain challenge with someone and saying this is not kind, this is not acceptable religiously. I think people will take it very well. You reach the same outcome, but you just change the terminology. And I noticed this. You can say, you know what, nursing home is wonderful for seniors. And you will be surprised, culturally it's not acceptable for someone being born in the Middle East. Why are you ignoring your parents? You are supposed to honor by still having them in your house and all of that. Maybe this is not really living by themselves, but you are offering, giving them a chance to build a friendship with people in their age and all of this. I feel like maybe re-examine the language a little bit and the terminology we use. It will make it easier for us to go further.
Question of books and information.
Spiritual formation. If I were to say the word spiritual formation, anyone in my congregation, they would give me a blank stare. Like, what does that mean? How did you come to believe and be the person that you are, if I would put it that way? Okay, so when I was young, my parents enrolled me in a Jewish day school. It was a very warm place, and we learned about being Jewish. When it came time for junior high school, I went to public school. And my mom said after the first day, "Is it different? Is it scary? What's it like?" I said, "Mom, nobody sings the Shema for the Pledge of Allegiance." It was like my first recognition that the whole world wasn't Jewish, because my whole world was Jewish. Turns out there's not that many Jews in the world at all. I went to college and I followed my interests, and people at the University of Virginia had not met a Jewish person before. They had a lot of questions. I did not have all the answers. I had a 5th grade education amount of answers. And it got me more interested in religion. So first I took an academic approach, and I went to Florida State University, and I did this kind of ecumenical dialogue. So fulfilling and so powerful. We all had this one belief. The belief was that if you knew the answer, you had the way, then you tended to get a little fanatical, and that you wanted it to be my answer and my way. We decided fanatics were no fun to be around. So that wasn't part of our dialogue. We accepted our differences. At a certain point, I had a mentor that I was TAing for at this University of Florida State, and his father had been a Reform rabbi. And he was like, "You don't want to be a professor. First of all, you never make any money. Not that you was a rabbi. But second of all, the challenges are something. You've got the personality for this, but you should go on and be a rabbi." So I went and I experimented with that. You can flash forward a long time. My 6-year-old son I enroll him in a Jewish day school in Nashville. And at a certain point, I go to pick him up. And his mom's a rabbi, his dad's a rabbi. He goes to a Jewish school and a Jewish camp. And he gets in the car, and he says, you know, Dad, there aren't that many Jewish people in the world. And I'm like, really? How many do you think there are? And I think he said something like 14 million, which was a really educated guy, probably heard it at school that day. And then he said, there's a lot more people in the world than that, Dad. And he didn't say it exactly like this, but this is how I heard it as from a 6-year-old who's now 22. He said, something you care so much about, most people don't really care. It still makes me very sad. But it does matter to me, I said to my son. I said, and I want it to matter to you. While there are practical aspects of being a clergy person, I get to speak and do things like this, and I like that. I get to read, and I like to do that, and I get to teach, and I like to do that, and I get to write, and there's some flexibility. Sometimes I teach more than the hardest thing I do is this pastor thing that you all do, which is why I said I wasn't a therapist. So this is kind of a heavy thing, but I'm going to share it. I was sharing with Brittany just a moment ago. When I was training to be a rabbi, there was academic study, and then there was like you guys do, like field stuff, right? There was practical pastor stuff. So we would go to these small communities. I lived in Los Angeles, and I would drive to Temecula, California, and we would meet in this Methodist church, and I would lead service, religious worship for Jews, and I would visit with the elderly, and then we would do stuff with the kids and the sick, and then I would come back, and they would process with us what happened. Someone's getting divorced. What should I tell them? Right? At one point, I was down in Temecula, and there was a young boy, and his parents were a little thrown because the grandfather had died, and he was very close to the grandfather, and he hadn't really emoted. So I went for a walk with the boy, and I started asking. I said, "Oh, I heard your grandfather passed," and he was very sweet. The boy said, "Yeah, sometimes I think about that, and I feel like crying, but I don't feel like crying right now." I said, "Okay." Then we walked on, talked about some other things, and then he stopped and he said, "You know, I have a brother." I said, "Oh, you do?" He said, "Yeah, he's older. He doesn't live with us anymore because he used to touch me in places that I didn't like to be touched." And sometimes when I think about that, I feel like crying, but I don't feel like crying right now. And I didn't say this, but I was like, I feel like crying right now. And then I told the parents, who could have warned me maybe, but I said, this is clearly not a health and safety issue, but he wants to talk about this more. And I don't think I'm the person that he needs to talk to about it. I'm only here once a month. And then I went home. I drove home to Los Angeles in my apartment, and I sort of cried on the couch for 2 hours. And I realized, in a part of my friendship, that people were going to tell me their shit for the rest of my life.
That's right.
And I say that because that's what they do for you. And so I have had different tools over the years with how to deal with that. I compartmentalize a lot. It doesn't work as much anymore, but one time I left the hospital where there was a stillbirth, and I drove the 20 minutes from St. Thomas to Congregation Micah and danced in front of little kids at our little Tad Shabbat. And that's just an emotional roller coaster that we're all on in life, whether you're a pastor or not. But the up in front and the personal, like those are skills that are hard, and I enjoy the challenges. I am unable to do what you all do. And I hope you all have tools for yourselves and your own mental health, whatever they may be. I do the yoga, and I walk in nature, and I unload on my friends who are pastors and rabbis, but the amount of emotions that get on me just by being in the wrong room sometimes, it can be toxic. And so I am constantly looking for those tools, and I care about your mental health. And I think you should too, because you're not going to serve them well if you're absorbing too much of it. So in the end, I'll say I find the work that I do very, very fulfilling. And I feel like I'm doing what I was supposed to be doing in life, my purpose. But that doesn't make it easier. And it frustrates me that I can't compartmentalize, and that the tools that used to work don't work anymore, and I'm constantly searching for ones that do.
mostly Catholics, actually. I had one friend, one Jewish family in the neighborhood, and we would play kickball together. And that's very controversial. And we would actually, sometimes, if the ball was kicked out and one of them said it was in, no, it was out, no, it was in, no, it was out, it would go to blows, like, really, really fighting. And so one day I was mad, his name was Hugh. I came home and I was like, Hugh, scratched my eye. And I was telling my dad, I was a little person. And I must have said something about him being Jewish. He's the only Jewish kid I knew. And he had a little sister, Missy. And I must have said something about him being Jewish. And my dad said, do not refer, he said something like, I remember him saying, they are the chosen people. And I was like, what? He said, they remain the chosen people. So as a little person, it wasn't actually through text or books, it was the example of my parents who were so open to people. So open to listening, open to, just open to people and forming my little heart to be open to people as we grew up. So that was one memory that I hadn't thought of for a while, actually. It just came to me right now. My parents were very faithful, and I would say they had a personal relationship with Jesus and passed that on to me from a very young age. The first time I felt like I met Jesus, I hated school. It's funny that I'm a teacher. I had, I guess, what you might call, I don't know if you call it separation anxiety, but I had that. I would never leave my mom. I just hated school. So beginning of every school year, I would say I want to go home because I am sick by the stomach, I don't want to be here. Meanwhile, I was kind of a social kid, but I did not want to be here. So the first time I felt like I met Jesus was my mom and my fourth grade teacher must have had a cahoots with each other, because she said, now if you go to school today in fifth grade and you don't want to be there, go to Mrs. Campbell, she's in fourth grade. Go to your fourth grade teacher. So I raised my hand in fifth grade, didn't want to be there, and I go over to Mrs. Campbell, and I said, I don't want to be here, I want to go home. I feel sick to my stomach. And she did what Phillip said we as Christians are comfortable with. She said, let's say a prayer. Right here. I said, okay. So she said a prayer, and in that moment, I went from anxiety, I didn't know that word, so my word was sickness, I guess, right? I went from yuck to peace. And that's how I knew from a young age that Jesus was real, that he was the source of peace, that I could call upon him, that he actually cared that I was a little fifth grader who didn't want to be at school. So that was nurtured, that relationship, thankfully, was nurtured through my life. We all, as teenagers and different things, we make stupid choices, but then we have to come back on the path. But I do know that my deepest desire was that people would know, when I was answering my vocation to become a sister, to lead everything and follow the path of Jesus, my deepest desire was that people would know that they were loved. Full stop. If I can have an opportunity at any moment, is that they would know that they're loved. And that's looked different in many different settings. From me now being a teacher with a little kid who doesn't want to be at school. Right now, okay, you want to say a prayer? Well, we better work together, okay? Right? Whatever the setting, but really that's been the inspiration of my life, that people would know they're loved. And it's looked in many different ways. So it's good to be here with you all, and I count it a providence of God and not a mistake or a coincidence that we're all in this room together. So thanks for your openness. Thanks for tuning in.
That sounds like soul care.
I think it's very, very important to have events like this where we can have direct dialogue, directly encountering people of a different background and tradition. Sister, I appreciate you reminding us or making us aware, perhaps for the first time, that Catholics are Christians. My grandfather So my mother was steeped in insanity. Was that a dog barking? Okay, insanity. All right. So it's very important, I think, for us to read other traditions by talking with people from other traditions, by reading what they have to say from their tradition, not what, to speak within the bulk of our room, what Christian writers have to say about Jews or Catholics or Muslims, but to read Muslim authors, Jewish authors, Catholic authors, Buddhist authors. Becca Stevens was part of the panel that I reviewed earlier that Ossama was part of. And she said, the calling is to love the world, not to change it. And it's not to get the world to love you. I'm willing to change so I can love the world better. That's what we're about. So I have another small question, but I'd like to open the floor to you for your questions for the panel. If you've been ruminating on that and you have a mild or burning question, they're really willing to hear it. So I'm going to do a David Dark. That means walk around the room.
So, I think of religious and spiritual traditions as in their best, at their best. Those traditions seek to embody optimal human living. Optimal human living. What we do, and is often the focus of our work, mental health. That health is defined as within a range on a normal curve. You know, it's a statistical thing, a certain standard deviation away from a mean of a population. That's what health is about. And people come to us, and people have said to me so many times, I can't even count through the years of my practice, is, I just want to be normal. I just want to be normal. And what I think we're about, and what we're looking for from you all, is a way to help us understand how to bring the optimal human living to people who are struggling about day-to-day life. They just hope that they can be normal, rather than really embodying the optimal. And I think that would be my question. How can you help me bring this vision of optimal human living into people, to people who are struggling just to get by day to day? If that makes sense.
I feel like the word I was hearing there was, how do we help people flourish, right? Yeah, I'm trying to superimpose like what the Jewish traditional role would be in that, right? Maybe I'll share this. We have a significant percentage of our community that have children on the autistic spectrum, which seems abnormal, right? That's not normal, because you use that term. And there's this beautiful piece that me and our educators share with parents. I don't know if you've seen it before. It's about someone who's getting ready to go to Italy. I see people shaking their heads already. They're so excited. I'm going to learn a little Italian. I'm going to eat the best Italian food. I am all ready. And I get on the plane to go to Italy, and the pilot says, we'll be leaving for Amsterdam shortly. I'm going to Italy. Amsterdam's awesome. They have food there too. You're going to love it. Some parents are still going to Italy, but that's not the journey that they were given. So I don't know exactly what normal is, but I do think there's a way you can use tradition and other resources to help people embrace the journey that they're on so that they can flourish as much as they can. And if they can't admit they have a problem, if they can't come to you, and if they come to you and they still can't own whatever it is, it's very hard to get them to flourish. There are things, impediments, and I understand the need to just be normal, but what is that? I feel like you just have to help them embrace this is the journey and these are the challenges you've been getting, and let's come up with some tools to help you overcome those hurdles and try to flourish as best you can.
You are asking me about the Islamic religion. In the Quran, Prophet Muhammad mentioned when God spoke using his name, saying, I am a human like you. I am a human like you. The only difference between you and I, that God gave me the ability to receive revelation. Within the Islamic tradition, we are supposed to be human 100%. With all what humans do and they can't do. So a good practicing Muslim can do many things wrong and they ask God for forgiveness and he gives you, should be fine. And for a good reason, in the Islamic tradition, heaven has many gates. And different people enter from different gates. Because each one has certain qualities. So we always say magnify what's good about yourself. Try to eliminate what's the shortcoming. You will go to heaven from one gate. So if someone practicing Islam, he or she should understand that you can live your life normal as a human. God never asked us in the Quran at least to change anything or to achieve anything. God asked us to give it our best shot. That's it. So God will not reward us, Islamically speaking, according to the outcome, but rather according to the effort. If you study hard as a student and end up having the F, you are good in the eyes of God. You did your part. So I think this can comfort individuals within the Muslim community a lot. That you know what? God will reward me, and the reward has so much to do with my effort, not really the achievement. And you are not special because how you look or because of what you have in your heart. Something I really admire that in Islam eliminate completely any preference due to gender, background, color, wealth. He said the best one among you in the eyes of God is the one who is more righteousness. Can be male, can be female, can be young, old. So I think in Islam here we live in the field. So if I want to help your client and if I'm in your positions dealing with a Muslim patient or someone asking for my help, I will highlight this that in your tradition you don't God is rewarding you anyway. And you are unique with your own circumstance. Even if someone, I don't like the term disability, but if someone is having certain challenges, he is unique and she is unique in her own way. And I think this has comforted us a lot when people said you did not change this or that. I said it's not our mission to change. It's our God expected from us to do our very best. And if we do our very best, we'll go to heaven. In the Islamic tradition, if the day of the judgment is here already, and you want to plant something, plant it. And one might say, well, there is no one going to eat from it. Well, because God rewarded us by the effort, not really the outcome. I used your mind.
Mother Teresa said, God asks our faithfulness, not our success.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to add one other thing if I can. Go to the next person. Do you all know about the Jewish commandment system? We have 613 commandments. I told some Catholic boys, I was like, we only have 10. A lot of them are exegetically derived from the Bible. A lot of them have to do with temple times and not applicable. They're in fact more tribal laws than I mentioned the structure of the system because people like Freud were very critical of it, right? Now, he did do us a big service. He proved to the world that something can be invisible and still real. That being said, I mentioned the structure of the system because I think kids, especially even adults, flourish in structure. And I think they see a great deal of purpose and meaning in pattern. And so, if you can help create the right pattern, now Freud said it's kind of brains that need to follow all these 613 laws so strictly. So it helps certain people function in society, is what it does, because they don't have to think themselves. I'm eating, I say this. I see a rainbow, I see this. I say this. So I wonder if there's a way, not Judaism itself, but to provide the kind of structure that would help someone flourish. That's just my
And well, myself so far, I'm rarely or never in circles where I'm like around interfaith. So I'm like, I'm not, so gotta ask this question. So you can ask, I know you all said that you're not the face of, you are a face of. So you can answer like personally, or you can answer, as the authoritative voice of your faith. But how do you see people differently? There was a movie that came out, When They See Us. So I was wondering, like, when you see each other, when you see somebody of a different faith, you may answer like in the past and how you progress to now. But like I wrote down, you see them as enemies, a threat, lost, and therefore need a conversion, or like you said, just in the flesh or just human. Like, that's like, now you were just like, secular therapists, you just see a human being. But since you all see the divine and the eternal and the soul going on into eternity, when you see a person of different faith, how do you see them, or if you would answer how you did in the beginning of your faith journey and how you see them now?
That's great.
Ask the first again.
I think it did help me a lot to interact with people. I remember we were speaking about Judaism and Christianity in particular. The first rabbi I met was in Corpus Christi, Texas, Ken Rosman. Ken Rosman was way older than me. He was pretty much retired rabbi, and I grew up in Egypt. Well, Jewish typically, I never interacted with any Jewish. I studied Judaism, but I never met any Jewish in my life. And we had the issue of Israel, it's an occupation, and all of this in the back of anyone's mind in the Middle East. And I remember the first time we interacted was not him nor me, it was a woman with the name Susan. Susan was a very activist, Jewish lady, and she came to the office and said, Imam, would you see the rabbi? I said, I would see the rabbi. I thought it's an opportunity to see someone I never seen in my life. And he was obviously literally double my age then. He passed away with COVID, and even I wrote an article about him in the local newspaper. But I learned through the years the need of magnifying your perspective. To answer, I work with evangelical. I know that they are trying to convert me. It's part of their agenda. But I have an appreciation for it. Because in many ways they are trying to save me. I disagree with them completely. Yeah, but I disagree with them completely, but you know what? I appreciate the desire of saving me. So when I see people this way, I see Phillip as a father and a husband, and I know his kids and they're in my house before. I think it changes the entire perspective. So I see people as a human first, and I try to magnify what's personal about them. And when someone said to me one time, evangelical he said, you are going to hellfire. And I said, why? He said, because you did not accept the Christ. I joked about it and said, well, if I'm going to hellfire, at least they feel bad for me. Don't be excited about it. And secondly, if you really show some sympathy for someone going to hellfire, and if you want me to accept the Christ, be nice with me. Don't use this language with me. You are not doing a good job. So, it's very hard. But I try try my very best to be objective. I try my very best to be part of the solution. I ask questions with the desire of hearing an answer, not really putting anyone in the corner. Because I feel like you have to get out of the cycle to change the cycle. If you continue to be inside, then it's boxing around. But you know what? I have an interest for you as a Jewish to exist. I have an interest for Palestinian to exist. Why don't we rethink this? So I see people as fellow family member. I really do. And I am grateful. I don't think America is special because it's army size or its economy size. I think America is unique and special because of the opportunity to interact with people from everywhere. This is what's unique about this country. It's a special gift in America. I never experienced this in Egypt. I was in Egypt and we have Muslim and Christian that said, but America gave me the ability to interact with people from different backgrounds. And I learned to work with them and to see what's good about them and to listen to their argument. And the dean of the divinity school, which was lesbian, Emily, and I invited her for lunch and I tried to I gave her a chance to speak with me about her perspective. And I asked her to justify her position within the New Testament. As a Christian lady, lesbian, how can you reconcile this with the text? And she knows I was not trying to put her in a corner. It was with both two of us only. And I had a genuine interest in understanding her perspective. She wasn't successful to change my opinion, but I enjoyed the discussion. I really did. When reading the book of Joshua, the first time, I said, God is very mean here. What is this? And I spoke with Levine, AJ Levine. AJ is a good friend. She's a Jewish scholar, very nice lady, very direct. And I enjoy this a lot about her. And I said, AJ, can you help me with understanding this? God can't be as good as this. This is too much. And I end up having appreciation for a different perspective. I might continue to have my own position, but I see people in the other side. I would set off my face as an opportunity. Really opportunity. Opportunity for me to learn something new. Opportunity for me maybe to change the position even. Opportunity for us to do something. We partner with the Jewish community who build the house every year for Habitat. So stop. We partner with the Orthodox community in Rome in the end with Belmont. So there's an opportunity. I cannot limit my relationship with anyone with one thing only. If we disagree, we are in trouble. No, we can disagree and we can work here. So I think follow human member of the same family. I really believe in this and I see them as an opportunity. You go.
That's such a great question. Thank you so much. My mind's racing with things. Okay, so firstly, when I see people, I see just the person, right? First, the common, the dignity of the person, that they're worth everything, right? So first, I just see the person as a company, and that there's more alike than there is difference. In my own path, thinking through this, just as you asked and before coming, I remember that whenever 9/11 happened, I was teaching in school in Birmingham, and we had to walk through a new prejudice for us, right, for ourselves. And I remember finding a sticker that said, I have family in Iraq. And the sticker was representing that we have Dominican sisters, so communities of sisters who are there, so fellow Christians. And as I was thinking about it now, it's actually family, because it's human family, right? So we have human family everywhere there is. I had to work through religion, because I didn't know very many Muslims. When I was missioned in Australia, from the place where I would drive 4 kilometers from one campus to the next, every woman, including myself, we were all veiled. It was every single woman was veiled. It's the largest mosque in the state of New South Wales. I got to know more at a human level. My eyes were doing more, I was doing a lot more interfaith dialogue there, and I learned a lot more. I had already had the idea that Jews were chosen people, and then, but then I had to learn more about the Muslim faith and about Muslims. Okay, going to the next step. To be true to myself, to my faith, Catholic faith, and Jesus, I do believe Jesus is the only way to heaven. Okay, so C.S. Lewis has the argument that Jesus is Lord. He's either the Lord, he's a lunatic, or he's a liar. Right? I believe he's Lord. So I do want my brothers here to get to heaven. I want all of us to be in heaven. And I do think that Jesus is the way to get there. So do I want these guys to convert?
I'm sure you are.
I probably do. But, and then on the path there, it's total respect though for them, right? And they know that. So, yeah, I think that's my my perspective. I think that when we're together and when we look at what is the Catholic perspective on interfaith dialogue, it's what I said a little bit earlier. It's not to say we're all the same, otherwise it doesn't make sense. That just doesn't make sense, that we're all the same. It becomes an injustice to each to say we're all the same. Where we are the same is our desire for social welfare, our desire for peace, our desire for religious freedom. One of my kind of heroes is that he's since passed, but it illustrates the same point. When I was teaching in Australia, and there was about to be a mosque that was built, there was all this, there was a great, people were like, don't do it, don't do it. The very first person to speak out publicly was a Catholic Cardinal George Pell, who said, I support the building of this mosque because the base is religious freedom. If we allow religious freedom to go, forget it. Forget it. So, yes, so I hope that's kind of helpful.
I should have gone first. my answer is not as pretty, I'm sorry. It says in the Talmud that you shouldn't share a drink with a non-Jewish person. Why would it say that? Because you drink with your friends. If you eat kosher, it's kind of hard to eat with people who don't eat kosher. There is one kosher restaurant in Nashville, Tennessee. For hundreds of miles, there's one kosher restaurant.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's great. It's on the Vanderbilt campus. We eat there out of duty and loyalty. I don't eat kosher. And I don't like those laws of Judaism. I am merely pointing out that while they put us in ghettos, and they did, we have laws within our tradition to keep you out also. And we get sage advice down the generations. Like the Talmud says things like, don't climb the walls. Meaning, don't think they're ever really going to accept you, because they're not. So, traditional Judaism, and I'm going to use some stereotypes here, thinks very nice. Just keep your Jewish and Muslim hands off our babies. Keep our Christian hands off our babies. Leave us alone. The traditional world, these people you see that live in small conclaves, that look the part with the beards and that, right? They don't mean you harm. They just think the whole world is out to get them. I do not think they are that. And they can make a case historically for why they think the whole world is out to get them. Netanyahu thinks and acts because he's in a line of people, his father a scholar, his brother killed in the Entebbe raid, who have had experiences in the world that make him believe that the whole world is out to get him. He's wrong. The trouble is, there are some people out to get us. very small portion of the world that actually represents a lot of people. So, most secular Jews living in the United States want to be accepted and they fit in and they respect like you and see the human divinity, like I said, the soul in every human being, and they're living amongst us and they are fully accepting that there are several paths to God and this is our path, and they love ecumenical dialogue. But the traditional Jewish community, and again I'm stereotyping, Rabbi Saul Strasberg, the Orthodox rabbi in town, is not like this at all. He is warm and welcoming and cares about the fear over time has just caused us to be, and that fear has resurged, right? The anti-Semitism and the feelings we get about feeling different has caused us to recluse a little into our, absorb a little into our own community, and hopefully that will go away. My guess is that there are ebbs and flows of that, and that we will recognize that the world is not out to get us.
All good answers.
I'm wondering what it is that your religious traditions bring to folks who are homosexual, men and women.
Nice one.
All right, we're going to disagree on this one, so that'll be fun. Traditional Judaism does not accept homosexuality, just like it does not accept premarital sex, right? It is not that you are not created in the divine image. You're just not supposed to act on those urges that you have. We at Congregation Micah and most of the Reform movement, over 1 million or so people, think that's a crock. And the way we approach our hermeneutic of studying our tradition is that if there's something in there that demeans another human being, we just don't think that comes from God. And it therefore gets a vote, but not a veto on how we live our lives, and we can reject it. The word Israel, to wrestle with God, we do wrestle with the texts. We do our best, but when we find certain things like that in the progressive world, we want to be more accepting of that. Different interpretations of sexuality, and in fact the Talmud does. It recognizes a whole variety of gender. In the modern world, secular Jews, people who are not living in an observant Jewish life, we have gay members of Congregation Micah. Just on Sunday, I went to Israelis, had a surrogate that was here in Nashville, and we dropped it in the mikveh, the kind of a ritual bath that converted it to Judaism, and they are on their way back to Israel this week. We participate in all kinds of those events, and we try to make space for people who are different.
Islam see marriage to be a relationship between a man and a woman. This is the Islamic position. And I'm not aware of any reasonable council within the Muslim community worldwide who disagree with these positions. So marriage is a union being designed by God, and it's a relationship between a man and a woman. However, I did experience when it comes to people converted to Islam, I experienced this in Middle Tennessee 3 times, homosexual women convert to Islam. And the position within the religion is you can convert to Islam by believing in the oneness of God and accepting the teaching. And being homosexual does not by any means disqualify the individual from being Muslims, but he or she is doing something wrong within the religion. This is the position. It's very direct, and one of them asked me to pray for her, and you remember I did. I tried to be nice. I said I did not write the religion to start with. So if you are asking me to change anything, I really can't. The only thing I can do for you is to be nice. When I serve in the committee in the divinity school, we have homosexual. We did work with them. Megan Berry was the mayor of Nashville when the attack against the homosexual club in Florida took place a few years ago. She reached out to me and she said, "Will you condemn this?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Publicly?" I said, "Yes." And I wrote into the CNN about it, saying we should not attack people who disagree disagreement. The meaning of freedom is for us to speak our mind, to live our life the way we want, and I respect that, and I see things as good and things as bad, and you do the same, and every one of us does. When we choose to be part of diverse society, it's a part of the package. That you know what, you interact with people that you disagree with, so take it well. And Vanderbilt one time, someone said to me, but your position is very aggressive, you are very hurtful toward me. I said, I'm not. I'm being honest. If we end up pretending around each other, we're going to create a hypocrite society. And I'm not willing to be a part of it. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite by any way. I speak my mind, and if I can't, I will not even live here. But I can guarantee respect and care. So when I disagree with Phillip saying we have to call for ceasefire, we disagree publicly. Lori wrote an article in Tunisian, and I wrote an article against her. But I wish her well. And I know she's enjoying the kids going to college, and I felt good for them. I really did. And I hope they have the same feeling toward me and my kids. So this is what I meant when we have disagreement, and it's not dandy all the time. Everything is not, but I guarantee respect all of the time, and they wishing people well all of the time. This is why I stood with the mayor when she asked me, not because of her really, but because it's the right thing to do. To eliminate the freedom of other, it's a way for you giving the green light for other to eliminate yours. And it has to go both ways. Yes, ma'am.
So the teaching of the Catholic Church is very similar. That marriage is a beautiful gift from God between a man and a woman. So, and the marriage is to be a lifelong committed relationship that will be fruitful. It will bear life. Right? So lifelong between the two, man and woman, and that will be open to life. So that's the perspective on marriage. And going with Ossama, it's the same, and Phillip would say the same. It's always, though, maintaining the reverence and respect for the individual. So if an individual has a homosexual inclination, the Catholic Church looks at that as still their equal dignity, that we're more than our sexuality. But it is the call to remain, what we would say, to live a chaste life, to not engage in the inclination. Thanks for your question.
I'm just going to add one sentence in that, and that is that I just recently wrote about this, and if you Google in the Tennessean last Sunday, there's an article about, it'll give you elucidate a little bit more. She brought up the biggest issue in Judaism. It's actually not the act. It's what is the first commandment in the Torah, the Bible, is be fruitful and multiply. So I can leave it there to say, can't you do that act? But we've proven that you actually can. That you can be okay to have gay parents. That there are these surrogate things that there. So most of Judaism, even traditional Judaism, can be relatively progressive on fulfilling that commandment and making more people, making more Jews.
All of the hands have seen yours and yours and yours.
Okay. In the academic world, the study of religions has changed a lot in the last 50 years. 50 years ago, I studied world religions, religious studies in college. It was a very prescriptive approach. Basically, we listed the beliefs, we listed the history, the primary figures in the religion, and that was religion for us. In recent years, I've revisited world religion studies, and what I found was, as opposed to prescriptive, there was a descriptive approach. And the approach was to say, we can describe the experiences that people have who practice that religion. And one thing that came out of that for me was, well, if we're looking at individual experiences, wouldn't all those be different within the same religion? And doesn't that suggest that there is no one monolithic description for any particular religion, but that is very personal for everybody in many ways. What do you think about that approach, academic approach to studying religion? Of course, within a faith, we approach religious education a little differently, but I just wondered, that's what's happening in academia. What do you think about that?
I just have one thought, and I guess that well, number one, I think I've seen that same shift you talked about, and taught comparative religion in Australia, and then trying to use figures to show forth the faith, right? So that's a little bit more descriptive, right? I think that there are commonalities within the faith. And you're right, the relationship is individual, but I think that from a Christian perspective, it's that God reveals himself. So he has the first move, and ours is one of response. So in that, there has to be an objectivity to it. So if I'm in a room full of Catholics, there's an objectivity to our experience, right? Or else it might be something that would just be so off that it might actually not be God that we're encountering. So there's an objectivity to our experience, but it is as unique as the person, because it's God revealing himself, our unique response. So it's objective and subjective.
It sounds like studying religion in the 50s was really boring. That we've added some zhuzh and chicken soup to learning about what it could be like to be of the faith. And I usually describe Judaism as like a stool, right? It's got 3 legs. It does not work this way for everybody. I'm a rabbi, I'm really into it. The 3 legs are God's Torah in Israel. And different people sort of grab hold of one leg stronger than the other. So they may be really into religious worship, but I don't ever find them studying Bible or Torah with us. Or they may come to every sort of Torah thing that we do, but they've never been to Israel. Or maybe they're all fired up on Israel, but they don't ever come to religious worship. So I see my role sometimes nudging them to the one spoke or two that they have not at least had a relationship with. Because the best definition of Judaism I ever heard is Judaism is the conversation about what Judaism is. Which means it is totally different for people as they experience it. And one of the things that we've been able to do, and one of the reasons we've flourished and sort of survived in diaspora, such that even though we're small, we're all over the world, is that we allow each community to observe Judaism the way it wants to, and the other communities are just supposed to respect that. Which is to say, it's sort of very top-down. So often, there's diversity within the community and different experiences, but sometimes there's a unifying aspect to the community, which is to say, we sing sort of similar tunes in Micah so that it builds the community, or we engage in certain social action projects that build the community. And so while we're experiencing it differently, and they may have the same experience and experience it totally different, there is something unifying in what we're trying to do as a community endeavor.
I think there is a need for us to mix the two perspectives. We have to teach the religion according to its guidelines to give a student an idea about what is the main principle within this faith, and to have a good idea, to be practical. And you can add to it people's approach, are they approaching literally or metaphorically and this and that. But for us to shift it completely from religion to spirituality, which is a movement going on today, I think the future of it will be elimination of religion altogether. And I disagree with that. I see religion to be an essential part of our life. So I like to keep the teaching of religion 50 years ago and to add to it what we have today, both together. Without adding both together, I think we end up losing the entire religious study.
Yes.
If you'll try to wrap it up.
I'm
Lightning round.
I'll shift a little bit because I primarily work with veterans who experience trauma as a clinician. As we see that there is an increase in traumatic events all around the world, people are becoming more anxious and fearful, hypervigilant. How do we as clergy and clinicians and faith-based community
good stories across the board. People now with this mega way of communications, and any crazy person used to speak by himself, now speaking with all of us all of the time. I think people magnify negativity. And I feel like we have to give proper attention to what's good. There's a difference between the two presidential candidates debating things and us recognizing what's good within the country. And recognizing that people in the Senate and the House, for example, really work hard to resolve conflict and create a better budget. I hope they are. I feel like there is more of, we have to shift to a traditional way of family and the neighborhood discussion and the activity in a lower level. We should not live only in the space and the internet. We have to live in reality with each other and start having given attention to picnic within the neighborhood, activity within our city. I think it will help us a lot. And magnifying this within our kids, giving a limit to access to social media a little bit, I think it's healthy. You can, younger people, I have a family in the community, the mother, her main complaint was her 26-year-old son doesn't leave his room, he makes good money working from his room, order everything through the internet, and no social life of any kind. I think we have to put elimination, we have to put a cap here, saying people have to live a normal life. I think we bring a hope. When we speak about other community, while we can raise a challenge, I wish people also can share good stories. And you know what, we were able to do this with this community, we were able to do this with other community, and the people have to go back to dinner around the table a little bit, and having this discussion, watching movie together, going for picnic, and having the road trip. I wish we can push the community a little bit toward this. I think it will go a long way.
I imagine others have trouble with this. I have trouble holding multiple emotions at one time. But we are approaching our fall Holy Day season, and it's been a hard year for the Jewish people. And so we are approaching it with joy and with hope and with grief and sorrow. And we're going to hold those multiple things at the same time. So the question you asked is actually something, I can't speak for them, we actually spent a lot of time thinking about and planning about, and how do we create an environment that can end on a hopeful note, that can help restore trust. I mean, people in this country don't trust the government, and they don't trust religion, and they don't trust the banks, and they don't have, there has just been a breakdown in this trust, and I think it's restorable. I have the hope that it is. Sometimes it happens on smaller levels. We paid tribute last night to the 6 hostages that were killed, one of which was American, and we finished with that baby naming of that new child born through surrogacy. So we always like to end on and up.
Funny, just yesterday I was a very similar story. I was just watching a little interview, and it's a woman who wrote a book called, you might be able to help me, Woke, Not Woke, what is it? Awake, Not Woke. And she was saying, sometimes the conversation at the dinner table, we actually can introduce or re-traumatize our little people, because whereas in the past it used to be, so what did you learn? What did you learn today? And there's the hopeful, what did you learn? And sometimes family conversations are, who was mean to you today? And for a kiddo in a high school or whatever, when their perspective is that negative, they're going to look for the negative everywhere. And we kind of tend toward negativity anyway as human beings. So the question of inserting hope, but also seeing what is good. But I want to commend you for your work with the veterans, and thank you so much for that.
I know we have one more question. I'm going to tell the story really quickly. It's alligators under the bed. You guys know about alligators under the bed? I go to put my kid down to sleep when he's little, and I do all my little schwan and everything in the story, and then I leave, and I'm walking down the hall, and the kid screams, Daddy, Daddy, there's alligators under the bed, there's monsters in the closet, there's spiders on the ceiling. So, like I've read Parenting Magazine, I go in, I turn on the lights. There's no alligators, there's no spiders, you're fine, go to bed. But whose view of the universe is empirically accurate? Because there are alligators everywhere. There's cancer, and there's people who steal children. There are all these horrible, chaotic things. They don't know the vocabulary for that yet, but they're scared. But I just want to go to bed, so I do what all parents do. I say, you're fine, go to bed. But the truth is, in saying that, that is the first step toward faith. Because because I have no idea whether my kid's going to be okay the next day. I just want to believe that they're going to. So.
I just wanted to lift up, I think, a layer of this conversation we're having today that I think is critically important and important to have among a group of therapists. As much as we celebrate our diversity, and that's important too, and that's obviously we've been doing that today, what I hear also is a celebration of our common humanity. And I think something that historical, I agree with someone who said we probably should not call them religions, we probably should call them pedagogies. You know, historical movements or pedagogies that teach us how to dismantle idolatry and purify desire. And Carl Jaspers years ago said that religions emerged during the axial age as a response to empire. And last night, David Dart talked about empire. Well, today's empire is different. It's not really one nation. It's a global financial system, a global marketplace, which is very quick to want us to celebrate our diversity, but does not want us to acknowledge our common humanity. It does not want us to acknowledge the sacredness of the planet, the sacredness of life, the sacred of human life, both collectively and individually. It doesn't want us to do that. Why? Because it would dismantle empire. It would take away the power of empire. Today's empire it sees the planet and human lives as something to be exploited and plundered. There's not a person here who is not against that. How is that important for us as therapists? Well, the empire is teaching us, including in our academic programs, that the sufferings people bring into our counseling rooms are diseases or illnesses that need to be simply expunged. They're not. They're paths of resistance to empire and the things that reduce our humanity. That's why it's important for religion to be part of our cure of souls. They're the historical voices that recognize that, even more than psychology does. So I want to lift that up. It's extremely important. I wrote an article a few years ago called Blessed Are Those Who Mourn Depression as Political Resistance. And that article is open source and online, so I welcome you to go look at it as an example of what I'm talking about.
Would you like to reflect on that?
Do you have any other questions?
We are at the mark. Before we thank them, I'd like simply to close with a ringing bell. This has been a sacred time with sacred people discussing sacred things. And hopefully it has been a mark of pilgrimage, that we've left the familiar and gone to a limited space and come to a reality, understanding ourselves anew and differently. So, before we thank you, may God bless everything you said in our hearts and the hearts of those we care for. We're so grateful to Belmont for hosting this, the students who've come. I have an envelope with thanks and a card for each of our participants. And before you clap, I want to say something really cool. It's so cool. We have gifts for them. As a gift for each of you. This is dark chocolate with a little bit of salt because it's sweet to be with you. It's so sweet to be with you. And we have orchids as well because you're beautiful. And these plants grow easily. We wish for our relationships to grow with you continually. Now, would you shower them with thanks? Thank you to See you there soon. Oh, don't go anywhere. There's a prayer. There's a prayer. There's a prayer.
Lover of our souls, we thank you for the profound gift of each other. We pray your blessing upon each of these your servants who have taught us so generously and courageously. We pray for the seemingly impossible peace and healing of all people and the hope and humility to pursue it. For you are in the business of creating what is not. Fill us with your love and wisdom as we go forth from this place, strengthened by the bonds of friendship and goodwill. In the name of